All right.
Do, 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 do. Living in the USA.
All right. Let's just make sure we're up and running.
Dietitian, politician, mortician.
All right. We are live.
We're live.
Let me get that stream out there. Wait for a couple of folks to come on. All right.
I didn't know. Hopefully that wasn't live.
Oh, we're live.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, we're live.
all
People,
right. Well, my bad.
people sneeze, man. That happens.
I thought pulling the headphones away and covering it would kind of like disguise it. Be like maybe he had to look at something over there for just a second.
No, you have to mute it on your device, or it doesn't work. I know you're not that familiar with Zoom meetings, but
Can you tell? Is it just that obvious?
all right. Stephen? Yeah,
Speaking of which,
don't do that. Don't do that.
what?
Completely end the call, right?
My bad.
That's all good.
It's before this is live. We can edit it.
Yeah.
It's just like a live record. You know what I mean? Like you want it to have the misses and the missteps and the messes ups.
That's right.
The messes ups. So there you go.
It wouldn't be live if you didn't do that, right?
Exactly.
We're live, baby, without a net. Let's see. We have somebody on called Junk from the Trunk saying
All right.
Kentucky Colonels. Care to comment on your Kentucky Colonels t-shirt, Steve?
Yeah, sure. So went to Kentucky or mid this year and enjoyed it and got kind of into that league of basketball knew nothing about, but I've kind of started to explore that and finding out the history of it and whatnot. It's a pretty fun league. It's a lot to unpack there, and it's one of those things that's kind of a relic of the past, and it's fun to get into.
There you go.
So, what do you have on? You got what? Darth Vader?
I got my psychedelic Darth Vader t-shirt on.
I like that. I like that.
That's from the 70s comic books. Did you? I think we talked a little bit about Star Wars and Star Trek before, but um, did you ever read like the comic books or anything like that? So
Oh, for Star Wars? Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got some original and some reprints from the '70s stuff, all the way up to when they were on Dark Horse and things like that. I would get those kind of periodically. When I was a kid, Star Wars was kind of my thing, just like most kids, and I would collect the action figures. And when they didn't have an action figure I wanted, I would kind of like go into the comic books and see what they had there. So I wasn't a regular buyer of them, but I had a lot of books. I remember. Did you ever read the book? I think it was like The Power of the Glove or like Darth Vader's glove or something like that.
no.
Well, it was good. Now, granted, I was 9, so it may have my opinion may have changed on it, but yeah, I got definitely got it in the. I still got it in the closet. I still got a stack of them. So
I mean, I think that I think the big thing is that through the the mid '90s or whatever, when that Star Wars sort of started kicking off with doing the reboots and everything like that, or I don't know, whatever you want to call those, where they um, what did they do? Where they remastered them and put them back in theaters for the first
Oh
time.
yeah, oh yeah.
Um,
I went and saw them in the theater. That was awesome.
do you think that kind of like kicked off sort of like the superhero kind of by the end of the '90s there was all you know what I mean, like I feel that through my childhood, right? So like through the '80s, like Star Trek was on TV, the original series, like that would be on like FX. The Next Generation was like on what was that, the USA Network or whatever. It always sort of
Right,
kind of was like the cloudy sort of like like soft hue to it.
right,
And then there was we had the Batman movies, the Michael Keaton Batman movies. And then like Superman, like the Christopher Reeve Supermans. But like to me, like that's all that world was. Like I don't like I remember the Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk were on TV, and you'd see reruns of the Green Hornet. But it just wasn't anything like it is now.
No, I think that what kicked it. I think all that stuff. There's always been superhero movies. They've always been around. The Christopher Reeves ones are great. I love Superman 2, dude. That Superman 2 is fantastic. But I think what really started those off was definitely the Tim Burton Batman. But then it kind of waned a little bit. I mean, they were always cranking out Batman movies, but it kind of waned a little bit. But I think what happened is the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies that came out.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
and those are such. I think those exceeded their expectations as far as a financial box office smash, and I think that's what kind of ushered in like okay. And then of course the Iron Man movies, you had those come in, and that's what really started cranking out money. And I think that's when they realized, okay, we got something here. And I mean, those movies make a gajillion dollars every time they put them out, and
Yeah.
some of them are good and some of them are terrible. I'm not the biggest fan, but the ones that I've seen primarily I've enjoyed, but some of them I think they're way too dialogue heavy in some instances, and it's I don't necessarily know that I'm the target audience for that kind of stuff.
I feel the same way. I mean, I feel like they're a part of um, they're sort of a part of being a comic book nerd and a comic book geek. Um, but at the same time, it's like I've never really sort of like went out of my way. Like when the Batman ones came out, like the Christian Bale ones, I think maybe I
And
saw
those
like
are good.
I think I saw like the first two, I think.
Yeah, those are
Um,
really good.
but I just wasn't necessarily, that wasn't something that I was just really like, I don't know.
Well, the other thing about it too is uh, to me, and again, I'm speaking for me, the rewatchability for them is really low.
Okay.
Like just because they seem to be dialogue heavy, and there seems to be a lot of them are used as bridge films,
Okay.
which like you start here and then you've got all this to kind of go through, and then there's the ending or the ending of this chapter or whatnot. So a lot of them are just kind of bridge films, and they're just there to kind of fill time. I feel like, but again,
Well, they're
just one
long, aren't
dude's
they? Aren't
opinions.
like the Batman's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
two?
They're
Yeah,
they're 2.5, 3 hours. It's. I mean, you gotta clear your schedule.
yeah. And I
You
mean,
know.
for me, the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, the very first Tim Burton
Sure.
Batman, is a perfect movie, and I feel like it's so good. Like it is just so incredibly good.
I had a coworker tell me one time he was so excited that when Batman, came to home video, that his friend rented it and he recorded it, just the audio, just the not the visual, just the audio on a cassette. And he said he would listen to that at night and just like kind of imagine the scenes that were going on. It's like, man, okay, so that's dude, there's some hardcore dedication there.
Yeah. No, that's a great film. I think it's um,
And it still holds up too. It's
well,
still fun.
it was a punchline the other day between me and you. We were saying something about, this guy's the king of the Wicker people or whatever it was,
Yeah.
which which is a great line from that film. So,
How do you know it's Japanese?
because I bought it in Japan. Um, So we got we got 4 or 5 people on right now. So hey, thanks
Hey, what's
for
up, everybody?
thanks for stopping by and chatting. Go ahead and drop your drop a hello in the chat if you have something that you'd like for us to talk about. Um, we were really Zappa heavy on the last one, and that seemed to be everybody was like really excited to talk Frank Zappa with us. So
So let's not talk Frank Zappa
yeah,
tonight.
like so
Let's not,
as
we'll make people yearn a little bit.
as we go from 5 people to one, just because we're saying that we're not going to talk about Frank Zappa. Um, so yeah, if you have something that you want to chat about, drop it down in the comments below. How's our audio sound? I know that my audio sounded a little goofy on the restream, but does it sound okay? Can you guys hear me well? I know Steve, you probably can hear me just fine, but
You sound good to me.
I don't know why it was a little goofy last time around, but that's that. So, um, but
It was
let's.
our demo tape,
It was
so
yeah,
that
that was
was.
our their first one. So, but Steve, what do you? Let's talk about what are you listening to these days? What did you listen to
So
last week?
so you and I have kind of talked about it a little bit, and as much as I'm able to, it's certainly not every day, but I have I don't want to say a bad habit, but I have a habit of playing the old favorites and stuff that's familiar and whatnot. But I've tried to kind of like, for instance, Paul Butterfield. Like rather than just listen to East West, I listen to what's the Dream album you were telling me about?
In My Own Dream.
Yeah, not a fan of that
I mean, it's a little more soulful. It's
one, which I thought I would like.
yeah. It's so I mean, I think that and I could talk about Paul Butterfield Blues Band all day long. It's definitely it's definitely a group that I really enjoy, and I think we've talked about before, where we both listened to East West and sort of discovered that and the live adventures of um, Bloomfield and Cooper and Super Session and just how those 3 albums are just monsters, right? I mean, they're
Right.
uh, albums that I would call desert island albums, or
Oh, easily.
if I was if I was on
Especially live adventures.
if that was the only record that I had, I could probably listen to that for forever. But yeah, In My Own Dream is a little weird, just in the sense that um, I mean a lot about Paul Butterfield. Like the guy was a mess. I mean, he was an alcoholic and just sort of they were trying to stay relevant, still kind of being a counterculture band, but you think about how I think about sort of British blues and just sort of that blues music in general. Between 65, 66, that was like really passe by 67, 68. And then by 69, those bands they became sort of like horn rock bands where you had sort of Blood, Sweat, and Tears come in and the Electric Flag and things like that. But that one can be a difficult listen. But I still enjoy it. I think it's still a good entry into their catalog.
I think you and I have talked a little bit about horn rock. We did with Chicago, and I think we kind of alluded, if we didn't if we didn't come out explicitly and say that you know not the biggest Chicago fans, but the first record is all right. And that second Blood, Sweat, and Tears album, to me, I think is a masterpiece. But the horn rock, it's either kind of hit or miss for me. There's very little, if none at all, that I think is just okay. There's something I'm like, oh yeah, this is really good, or no, I don't ever want to listen to that again. And unfortunately, that specific album by Paul Butterfield and the Blues Band just didn't do much for me. And then I followed that up with another album that you were like, have you ever heard this? And I said no. And luckily, it's on streaming platforms, and that was Tom Fogerty's
Okay.
solo record.
All right.
Started off really strong with like the Ballad of Alcatraz or something. I was like, this
Right.
is kind of neat, but you can definitely tell he was trying to prove that he was the heart and soul of CCR, and God rest his soul, but he necessarily wasn't.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an album that was kind of here, there, and everywhere. And then I ended that listening session with another album that you said don't listen to. So I said I'm going to listen to that, which was Dewey Martin.
Okay. All right.
Wow, not good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is. I mean, an album that is completely directionless. There's no hooks. There's just. I mean, that is, and the album's only like 29 minutes too,
It's
but it felt
quick.
like it was.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that way though. It was an endurance test, if anything. I mean, I hate to dump on it so hard, but I mean that wow. But the charm to it, now that I've completely bashed it, the charm to it is think about this. This day and age, the drummer for Buffalo Springfield, would he ever get a solo record deal? Absolutely not. But
No.
back then,
Yeah.
he signed to a label. So
Yeah.
God bless him. And that's I just think that's there's a little bit of charm there with something like that.
Well,
You
uh,
know,
I think it's certainly at that time too. You see, okay, Steve Stills is making albums. There's Crosby, Stills and Nash. There's Neil Young by himself. What hurt could it be? To give Dewey Martin a chance and record an album, and even too, like, what Jim Messina was in. What's his connection to Buffalo Springfield? He has some sort of
ah,
there's some
does
sort of,
he?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, there's a connection there.
Okay.
Maybe he
Well, I mean,
was,
all those
yeah,
guys were hanging out with
yeah,
each other and playing on each other's records. So
all in Laurel Canyon,
yeah, exactly.
they were all hanging out and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's definitely a pretty terrible album. Just one for curiosity's sake, that I think a lot of my record collecting would be, I would see an album that I would look at the liner notes and I would say, oh, here's something that I never saw before. Or, this guy played on this album, and let's check it out. And yeah, next thing you know, you have. You didn't listen to Bob Mosley's album though yet? You haven't listened to that one, right?
Did not. I
I
did
don't. I
not.
don't think
I
that's
did not.
available on streaming services. I don't think
It's
that.
not, and that may have been the reason why, or the dude Martin was like, okay, that's enough of that. Let me put on some Oosker or something. That's enough of that. So, but it was, yeah, it's not good, and you warned me, but it's kind of one of those things. So some new releases that I've been playing a lot lately. The Rolling Stones, they put out that massive box set.
Mhm.
Um, of
Tattoo
Tattoo You.
You.
It's
Yep.
basically what I was interested in hearing is the outtakes. The outtakes from it are really good. They sound just like the Tattoo You stuff. That was kind of a compilation album in and of itself, but those, bonus tracks were really cool. They have a live concert with it, and that period of the Stones live, I'm not really a fan of, just because everything was kind of like played at Ramon speed a little bit.
Mhm.
That's the live stuff is just kind of throwaway to me. A couple more. The Replacements, Sorry Mom, forgot to take out the trash. That's their first album that it's expanded with live stuff, demo stuff, really cool. Got It By Voices have a new album. I think they release a new album literally every quarter. So, and that one's okay. I like Earthman Blues a lot better, but that one's okay. And I've got some ones that I've listened to, but I've yapped enough, and I'll let you go, and I'll take
Sure.
when you get done. So.
Um, Dr. Horton mentions, he says, or she says, or they says, Jim Messina was in Buffalo, Springfield, and Poco. So uh,
There we go.
I was
There's your
right.
connection.
Yeah, I was. I knew that there was some sort of a connection there. That's another album. The Loggins and Messina's greatest hits. You see that. You used to see that all the time, and you don't anymore. And I think that's one of the ones that, I think, just because Kenny Loggins is in it, people are like, sort of like, that's a record that they seem to gravitate to. So, but yeah, you used to see that record all the time for a buck. The one where they're like hugging each other on the front. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, thank you, Dr. Horton. Yeah, so some things that I've been listening to. So one new artist that I've been listening to quite a bit, and I know that I haven't really made many videos about this artist. I think really, probably just because they're somebody I've sort of discovered in the last couple of years. But every time they put an album out, I've been really like, it's been one that I've been sort of focusing on, is Hiss Golden Messenger. I think I've told you
Yeah.
about Hiss
Yeah. Oh
before,
yeah.
MC Taylor. So I'm very just drawn to, um, his style is sort of, he doesn't have really any contemporaries. Like, he does, but he doesn't. He's on Merge Records, which is out of Durham, North Carolina. So a lot of those artists, sort of like the Fruit Bats, things like that, sort of that indie, not necessarily indie rock, not necessarily indie folk, but sort of like kind of a mix in between. His music really reminds me of sort of like Levon Helm and sort of like the band
Yeah.
and things like that. So, but so like check this out. So on Wednesday, he had meant, or like Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, he mentioned on his Instagram, hey, I got a big announcement coming on Wednesday. And he does this thing on his mailing list where he'll send you an email. And it's really cool. It's like sort of his like, it's kind of like a stream of consciousness, sort of like, hey, this is where my head's at right now. And then he sort of gives you some things at the bottom, some books that he's reading, some music that he's listening to. But he announced that he has a new record coming out. So I have that right here. So this is his Golden Messenger, O Come All Ye Faithful. So he announced it on Wednesday, and he said, I have them in hand if you order them, and I got this by Saturday, which was
Oh
incredible.
wow.
So there's like this one, which is just sort of the standard. I think there's maybe 8 or 9 tracks on it. I don't know offhand without counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tracks. So there's sort of like Christmas standards. There's "O Come All Ye Faithful," "Joy to the World," "Silent Night." There's a song called "The Hanukkah Dance," um, and then he has some songs that he sort of wrote that are sort of like his, like these are his Christmas songs that he's putting out. And then there's also a cover of CCR's "As Long as I Can See the Light," and I thought
Oh
that's
wow.
is really cool. It's a really cool kind of cover. But kind of his thought process behind this album was to kind of be one of those Christmas albums that sort of um, just kind of go in your collection, and they're like, that's a Christmas album that you gravitate to. So I'd love to take a minute and maybe even and poll some of our viewers if they want to drop a comment in about this. But Steve, not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot, um, talk to me about like what are your like go-to Christmas albums? Like, do you have a couple like that?
No,
You don't? Okay.
not a fan. I mean, I like the Phil Spector Christmas.
Okay.
I,
Right.
I am I am not a fan of Christmas music.
Really? Okay.
Just not. Not to sound like Scrooge or anything. To me, Christmas music is just nails on a chalkboard.
Okay.
Uh,
And I get that. I get that.
and I don't have any deep seated resentment towards Christmas or anything like that at all. It's just I just nothing drives me crazier than people playing Christmas music in like October.
Okay.
So
Well, and here's the
but
thing.
but
I listen to this. Like I've played this probably 5 or 6 times already. So,
yeah.
and I know that's kind of weird because it's not even Halloween yet. But
Hey, do
like
your thing.
I was so excited for it. I see
Yeah.
Jerry. Hey Jerry. Jerry said his hiss just hit the mailbox today. So,
All
uh,
right.
keep talking. I'm going to show you what the vinyl looks like. It's splatter vinyl. Mine was a little light. Mine was like 35% splatter free on the one side.
Oh,
Looks
that's
pretty
cool though.
pretty good on that side. That's a little, and again, when you do a splatter vinyl like this, with that Kiss record where it was like somebody put a
It looks
thumb
like the,
a thumb smudge on it. So
but a splatter Christmas vinyl. Is that the first and only splatter Christmas vinyl
that I have, or
in existence, man?
it's hard to say. It's hard to say with what people are putting out these days. And I see Junk from the Trunk, who's been commenting quite a bit, said when I worked in retail, Christmas music made me want to jump off a narrow bridge.
So
Uh,
maybe that's where it comes
okay,
from.
and
Just kind of hearing it and just again because I've worked retail before and all that. So maybe that's where it comes in. It just to me it's just something that just hits you over the head and
right.
it's just constant like it's just a steady stream of just Christmas music and it just again it gets to be too much too quick.
Yeah, and I get that, and I know that. So again, talking a little bit about my past and Christmas music. For a while, I did work for Pittsburgh's #1 Christmas music station, and we would start playing Christmas music like before Thanksgiving. So like
Holy
it
smokes.
was it was it was pretty heavy duty, and we would do these events. We had like a big kind of charity thing that we would do in the like most TV stations and and radio stations would do, and some of those things I would work maybe like or close to 12-hour days, you know what I mean? And so you
Oof.
would hear the broadcast and it would be like, you'd come and you would hear, Dominic the Donkey. Are you familiar with that song? Is that a local thing? Okay, so that must be a local thing. That's one of Sam's favorite Christmas, like ironic kind of Christmas songs. But
And
you
like
would
I like Father Christmas by the Kings.
okay, but you don't normally. That's
Run
not one that's
DMC. I like their
but that's not like your
Christmas song.
normal. Like that's not going to be like in your normal, Christmas road. Like you're not going to
Right,
go.
that stuff's good. So that's why it's not in the normal
That's why you don't
rotation, I
hear it,
guess.
right? You hear you always hear the Bruce Springsteen, Santa Claus
Santa
is
Claus is
coming to
coming.
town. Right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, so
We both sounded good there. We
we
should
did
do that more often.
a little, to
It was
quote
pitchy, but we're working on
to
it. All
quote
right.
Alvin and the Chipmunks, Alvin, you were a little flat there, right? So, but that's another one that's one of my favorite Christmas albums. I enjoy that. The Phil Spector one is good, and I think that the Peanuts one, right? You can't just like you got to put that the Vince Guardi one like
Yeah.
that's like a classic, man. You got to put that on. So
Yeah, but that's more of a jazz record. I can handle that. You know.
it is.
You know,
But that's sort of what he was going for. Like he wanted it to be sort of like one of those albums that was just sort of
tolerable.
like exactly. You just kind of put it in there, and it wasn't too abrasive, right? So I mean,
Sure.
there's a lot of abrasive. Uh,
And again, I don't want to come off as Scrooge. You know what I mean? Like it's like I know I probably sound like that, but I seriously I don't want to come off as Scrooge. But it's just, it's just not for me. But hey, if people can listen to it, enjoy it, and puts them in that holiday spirit, then right on. That's what it's
yeah,
about. Being good to your neighbor and all that, and that's if that gets you in the spirit to do good things, then who am I?
yeah. I mean, and I think that um, Jerry mentioned "Run Run Rudolph," right? So you were talking about the
Yeah, yeah,
Stones, and this. Well, Keith Richards covered
Chuck,
that for a
yeah,
little bit.
Chuck
Chuck
Berry,
Berry.
of
Um,
course.
I think that there's definitely a moment that I had that I think. See, I've moved into that part where Christmas music sort of like enhances my Christmas experience. Like I agree with you. Like several years ago, where it was just like I can't even listen to it. I had an experience where I was in a Kmart and. This Kmart obviously, closed a couple of months after that Christmas season, but you had, John Lennon's "So This Is Christmas" was playing, and I was like, "This is the most depressing thing that I think I could ever think of." I'm standing in
Why
this.
don't you guys play Imagine next and follow it up with Blood on the Tracks? Do you have Berlin? Go ahead and throw some Lou Reed on. Why don't you
Yeah,
completely ruin my day? Why don't
yeah,
you go ahead and play some of those dog commercials too, like Donate Now, or they're out of here.
that's yeah.
Just completely ruin my day, guys.
But it was definitely a moment where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that was kind of weird. But I can't recommend that enough. It's His Golden Messenger, "Oh Come All Ye Faithful," really great record. Hopefully, it makes it into your Christmas collection. Steve, go ahead.
Probably not, but it should. But if I do buy a Christmas record, that will be the one. I can
Yeah,
promise you that.
yeah, it's
So
at least check it out on the streaming services. I think it might be on there. I know that I mean, it's on Bandcamp where you can peruse some of the tracks if you want to. There's also
yeah,
a deluxe edition too that has like extra stuff, being fiscally responsible as we're talking about with records and not sort of bringing more into the house.
you
Uh,
didn't want the 17 LP version
no, there
with
was.
yes.
I think it was. I think some of the stuff that was on it was kind of like sort of ambient kind of things or whatever. Um,
Okay.
Jerry, did you go with the standard issue or did you go with the deluxe edition? Let me know if you're still with us. So,
And while
Steve, I
he's
think
answering
yeah,
that,
you had
some
a thought.
Christmas music, no, but Christmas movies.
Oh yeah,
We can talk about kind of those that I watch every year, like your Home Alone, your Die Hard. The best one is Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. Are you a fan?
I am a fan of that, and that's just something that's been as of lately, probably within the last maybe 5 years, 5 or 6 years.
Really?
Yeah, as a kid growing up, we watched a lot of the Rankin and Bass stuff.
Hmm.
So that stuff I sort of know inside and out. Bumbles Bounce, that whole good thing. But I really never saw. I mean, I knew the Muppets Christmas Carol, but I didn't know of Emmett Otter. And I was working at this one place, and we sort of had these TV screens in our office, and they said, "Let's put up Emmett Otter on there." And I'm like, "What the heck is this?" And I had to go out and buy it. So it's one of
Yeah.
Althea's favorite. I mean, she watches it all the time, and I'm still
Yeah.
convinced. I'm still convinced that if they would have stuck to the plan, if they would have played barbecue, they would have been fine. They probably would have won the talent show.
The Rocky Bottom River Nightmare Band wouldn't have stood a chance against the barbecue tune.
I think that was just such a tight tune that they could have just done that. So,
Yep.
and it reminds me of when I used to play in a band. We used to do this open mic night thing, and the band that hosted it always would play "When the Levee Breaks" by Led Zeppelin.
Right.
Well, it was their version, but it sounded, it wasn't even close to that. And so my band, we decided that we were going to play that, and of course we, booted it into the stratosphere.
Right on.
And that sort of reminded me of that situation where we were just like, screw these guys, we're going to play that song. And then when we would play with them, we played with them a couple of shows, and that song was no longer in their repertoire. So because we
If
were
I
good.
was a wrestler, that would be my theme to walk out to. What would be your theme, Mark, if you had to
uh,
pick something?
that's a
Putting you on the spot now.
That's a tough one. I've always thought my walk up music for baseball. I always thought that Blitzkrieg Bop was sort of a good one.
Yeah.
Nothing gets you into the mood like that, or maybe Loose by the Stooges.
Okay.
I think if I was a wrestler, it would probably be Loose by the Stooges, where it would just be the scream, and then I would have to do the Ultimate Warrior like run to the ring, kind of thing. So how about you?
Right on. Yeah, absolutely. When the levee breaks for all of the
Oh, you said
above.
okay, all right,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So a couple of things that I've kind of gone back to and listened to. Juicy Lucy, I know you're a fan of them as I am. They kind of like fall into that same category as Paul Butterfield. Maybe not as obviously. I don't think it not as good, but I think it was their last album, Take a Whiff or Have a Whiff.
okay.
Really good record.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that one?
See, I have two. I have the one that's like I'm trying. I think it's just their self-titled one where it's like the lady that's laying down and has the fruit all
Covered in
over.
fruit. Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
just their self-titled one? I think
yeah. That's their first record. And their second record has like a dude rocking out on it,
it's like
and
his
then their
face is just blurry. It's kind of like a gray.
right,
Okay,
right, right, right,
so I have those
right,
two
right.
albums, but I don't.
And then in
And
their third record is the one that's got like I don't know where it's at right now,
okay,
but yeah, it's got like a gremlin or something on it, and
okay,
so but yeah, I mean it's pretty good. It's much the same. It's nothing life altering. It's just a fun record. Um, I know you're not a super big fan of these guys, but Grand Funk Survival played that a lot this week, dude.
okay,
I'm a huge Grand Funk fan, especially their early stuff.
right.
Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. Again, I know you're not a fan. And the one I'll leave you with, the band's last album, Islands.
Okay, so tell me
Have you
about
heard
that.
this record?
No, so you told me about it,
Right.
and I was like, yeah, I definitely have no reference point for this album
It's
whatsoever.
it's super uneven. You compare it to their other records, I think you're gonna leave mad. But I think there's a couple of good shining moments. Let the Night Fall is really good. It Must Be Christmas Tonight and Knock and Lost John, I think are fun. But you could definitely tell in some areas of that record, the band was just kind of phoning it in.
Well, and you,
So,
you you would have to expect that. I think that
oh
just
yeah, oh yeah,
um and really, I go back and forth between the Brown album and music from Big Pink. I mean, I think music from Big Pink. I think the Brown album is a better album than music from Big Pink, but I think it's the cultural impact of music from Big Pink is maybe the reason why it's sort of held in higher regard. Because it's really just like the Basement Tapes, 2.0 basically. You know what I mean? Minus
right.
Dylan, right? If we really want to get down to it, but those later albums, they're very difficult to listen to. And I think for
They
me,
are.
I'll listen to I'll listen to music from Big Pink, the Brown album, Rock of Ages. Really enjoy that album.
Mhm.
And I know that's just greatest hits live,
That's a good
basically.
live record. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good live album.
And then of course Bob Dylan and the band Before the Flood, which is pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's just about the same time frame um, as sort of the Last Waltz and all that stuff. So yeah, I
Are
mean,
you a fan of Cahoots and Stage Fright and all that?
the song "Stage Fright" is probably one of my favorite band songs.
Okay.
Cahoots. I mean, there's what's on there?
Life is a Carnival.
Life is a
Life is a
Carnival,
Carnival.
and
Yeah, that's a
When I
great
Paint My
song.
Masterpiece, I think is on there too.
Right.
Um, does that have
But
more?
again,
Right.
those are a little uneven.
Well, and that's, you look at those later band albums, and, I know that we've talked about this with sort of like Pink Floyd and things like that, where you take like three of those albums and then you combine them together and you have like, okay, here's like one really good album. And
Yeah.
I think their latter career is really, even Moondog Matinee is pretty, is that one's the one's all covers, right? Isn't that one all covers, I think? Which one is, this is
Yeah, I
where
think so. Yeah, yeah,
this is
yeah.
how this is what I'm showing.
Eh,
Like I don't really have much
Anything
band.
after Cahoots, it's kind of it's I kind of got taper off a little bit. Like even I would say I like half of Stage Fright and half of Cahoots.
Hmm.
I mean there's a to me there's a significant drop off between the Brown album and Stage Fright.
Oh
Like
yeah,
there's a noticeable drop off.
big
So
time. Yep.
so
And it's just crazy because it's just like I guess it was ego. You know what I mean? I guess that kind of got in the way. But it's not like I know Robbie Robertson had a couple albums in the '80s that I think they had some sort of hits on them. You know what I mean? There were like a couple like somewhat charting singles. Um, but it's funny to look at it and see like, okay, here's a band that just sort of like fizzled. You know what I mean? Like they just,
fast too. Yeah.
yeah, like when they came out, like people were like, oh my goodness, like this is because I'm really of the mindset that like from 1968 they changed, like they really just absolutely booted off that whole sort of like roots rock, you know,
Oh
sort
yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
Like between like they were doing the East Coast thing, and like West Coast was like Crosby, Stills, and Nash. You know what I mean? And in some ways, that like they were doing two different things, but at the same time, like those albums were just like I don't think we'd have Crosby, Stills, and Nash without music from Big Pink. I don't think that would happen.
I agree with that. I don't think we'd have American Beauty either.
Right. Agreed. Yep. Or Working
I
Man's
mean, think
Band.
of
Yeah.
yeah, well, exactly. I think that's how big of an influence that they had, and unfortunately, I mean, between people like us, obviously we know that stuff, but unfortunately, I think they're kind of overshadowed by some of their contemporaries and people they influence. So kind of unfairly too.
Yeah, yeah. But I know that I
So
have some solo stuff from, like there's the Levon Helm All Stars, and I have like a Rick Danko solo album. So maybe I'll take a listen to those this week, and well, the week's almost over, but before our next show that we have, and
yeah,
maybe I'll report back and let you know about that. So
for
um,
sure.
yeah, those are definitely. I don't really know much about their latter stuff. Like, and I have some of the albums, but I just don't when they were doing that reissue campaign where there was
Hmm.
here's the album with maybe like 4 or 5 bonus tracks on it and things like that. Yeah, like I was picking those up. But again, you know, uh, it's kind of crappy because they kind of petered out, and Richard Manuel, like I feel like he could have done some pretty good solo stuff and it just didn't happen. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, I mean, you talk about tragedies. I mean, that's certainly a band littered with them. So
yeah. And one of my earlier kind of introductions to like the Flying Burrito Brothers was through there when I was in when I was doing college radio. There was this thing that we would play, and I think it was either on Saturdays or Sundays. I can't remember, but it was called the Wood Songs. Hey, are you familiar with this?
songs from the wood. What did you say?
No, it's kind of, yeah, but I'll switch around. It was like the Wood Songs old time like radio hour, old time folk hour. I can't remember what exactly it was called.
Okay.
But they would play, they would play sort of, um, it was music that we would consider like Americana, right? So
Okay.
it kind of gave it was sort of like an Austin City Limits of Americana music, which it's
Very cool.
kind of the same thing. But anyhow, there was the group that was touring at the time was called Burrito Deluxe, and it was like Sneaky Pete um, on pedal steel, and Garth Hudson was playing on keyboard, and that was sort of like they're like, yeah, check out the Flying Burrito Brothers, and and they were like, this is a super group, and I was like, okay, I got to check these guys out, and then that's really where my introduction to the official Flying Burrito Brothers happened, and of
Can
course
we
you.
go ahead and tie Frank Zappa into this episode with Sneaky Pete playing on It Might Just Be a One Shot Deal?
I didn't know he played on that. I didn't.
Oh yeah, man. It's for Waka Jawaka. It's one of my favorite Zappa records, man.
Again, that's one that's like not, I've yet to
Oh, you must, dude. That
I've
dude,
yet to discover
that
that one.
please, that's a great record, man.
Um, but Steve, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about. I don't know if you brought show and tell or not, but what are you viewing
Maybe
these days? What are you watching?
viewing a
Yeah.
lot of Sesame Street.
Okay.
So
Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood.
very rarely she likes Donkey. My daughter likes Don Quixote. Are you familiar with Don Quixote?
No.
It comes on after Sesame Street.
Okay.
It's about a donkey named Hody, and he goes on adventures.
No.
No, from nobody. Okay.
Got nothing.
Um. So yeah. Um. Obviously, the World Series I've been
Yeah,
watching. I think the Braves will win it in six.
for
That's my
sure.
prediction.
Okay.
So I watched the new Halloween movie.
Okay.
It's awful. It's terrible.
Okay.
People have people either love it or hate it. Not a fan. I've watched Yellow Submarine about 3 times this week
Okay.
because my daughter has super gotten into not only the Yellow Submarine movie but also the Beatles. She likes to listen to them in the afternoon when she's kind of, you know, not taking a nap, but just kind of relaxing.
Mhm.
So Magical Mystery Tour, the album gets a lot of play. She loves Hello Goodbye and the title cut and Baby You're a Rich Man and all that. So my daughter's really gotten into that. So that's been cool. So that's really all I've been watching. The Real Ghostbusters cartoon. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
So she randomly wanted to start watching that. I've got the DVD, so we watched a little bit of that. I have not watched it yet, but the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm came out, and I've got that on the DVR. I have not had a chance to watch it because that doesn't really transition well right after Sesame Street.
Right.
So that's not really a whole lot. My options for television are limited at best.
Gotcha. Well, I've been watching a little bit of obviously Comet and the movies channel. I've been the DVR's been working overtime just
Yeah,
because there's been some good movies they've had. Uh, you know, movies channel has had a Hammerthon. I think they've done that twice. Usually, through the month they'll play everything at least once or twice, or sometimes even 3 times. So all those Hammer ones, it's nice to kind of check those out. Curse of Frankenstein, the Satanic Rites of Dracula, and Dracula has risen from the grave. I love all those those Hammer horror movies are some of my
yeah.
favorites. They've been playing a lot of those. The actual Batman, the Adam West Batman, is going to be on Saturday. So if you want to watch Sven and then switch over to movies, there you go. You're all set.
Absolutely.
So I think at 10:15 they're playing that. But I've been watching a lot of so again just those random movies. But I did want to I wanted to bust this movie out because it was like this is one of my favorite movies. Are you familiar with Theater of Blood or Madhouse starring
I am
Vincent Price?
familiar with Madhouse. Madhouse is awesome. Theater of Blood. I've got a Vincent Price collection. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that's in there. But I love Madhouse. Madhouse was the reason I bought that collection because I couldn't find it
Yeah.
anywhere else. And it's got like Dr. Fibes
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think you probably
Mask of the.
is this. I mean, it's like a collection. It's like a red box and it has Vincent Price's face on it. Is
Is
that
that yeah?
and
Is
it
that
like
yeah
they're real
that
skinny. There's like five
yes
movies in
yes
it. Okay, so we have the
yes
same
yeah.
box set. Okay.
We got the same box set. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Theater of Blood is there's also another movie that's on there that's sort of the same. It's like he made the same movie almost like twice. I forget what the other one is called. let me look it up while we're talking about it. But Theater of Blood, long story short, is there's basically these critics that are not a fan of Vincent Price, and he sort of is like in this rundown theater, and they come to visit him like one at a time, and then he like does a performance where he ends up like killing each one in succession, and it's pretty good. It's and of course it's later Vincent Price where he's just like, I feel like he's such a great actor that like you get like the sort of the feeling that they were sort of like, here's the script, right? And they just like hand him the script, and like it's like that day, and he's just like, you know what I mean? Like he's just like rattling off these lines, like, like I'm
Right.
Vincent Price. I don't need to read the script more than once. Madhouse has that feeling to it as well. Him and Peter Cushing, like it's like they're basically just like making up their own, their movie as they go along, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
But
but
that makeup in Madhouse is his makeup in that is super cool.
what is your Let me I'm looking up this box set right now. Um, I think it's just called the Vincent Price Collection. Isn't that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Um, yeah, Doctor Fibes is pretty cool. I
Oh,
definitely
both of them. Yeah, man.
I
Dr. Fobbs rises again.
yeah, that was yeah.
Those are both great.
Here is the um, let me, what is that called? It's like the Scream Factory is what it is. It's just called Vincent Price.
Yeah, Scream Factory put it out probably about 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
But it's really good.
Uh,
If you're on the fence about getting it, I couldn't recommend. I think I speak for Mark too. We
yeah.
we both highly recommend it.
Well, they have just reissued it on
Right?
Blu-ray.
Oh, very
Yeah.
cool.
There
Ooh.
it is, the Blu-ray
Oh, look at
version of
that.
that, the Vincent Price collection. Um, or maybe that's something completely different. Who knows? Um, what is that other movie?
Mask of the Red Death.
No, Mask of the Red Death is more like it's like it takes place in the like the old times. There's that, and then there's like Witchfinder General's on that one, which was another one
Witchfinder
that
General's awesome. That's a great movie
uh,
too.
um,
What about House on Haunted Hill? That's a good one.
so what you're trying to tell me is to say is the hill is haunted, but not the actual house. Is that correct? It's the house on Haunted Hill, so it's the hill is haunted, but not the house. Correct?
You're just gonna have to come here for the night and see if you can get $1 million.
Do
What
you?
kills me about that movie is like, it's they're like, oh, what's that sound? Let's go out and check. I mean, for $1 million, I would just hunker down in a corner and be done with it.
Yeah.
I think that's a logical assessment to that movie.
Um, I think it might be. What's it? So there's Tales of Terror, which that one has Peter Lorre in it. That one's really cool. That's like
I don't think I've ever watched that one either.
there isn't. Oh, you got to watch that one because there's this great scene where it's like Peter Lorre is like this complete like just drunken buffoon, and he goes to like this wine tasting, or I don't know if it's like a wine tasting or it's just like at the bar, and he's like going one for one on Vincent Price.
It was either a classy wine tasting or some kind of bar. I
I
don't
can't
know.
remember. Man, what is that movie?
Which one are you talking? Is it on that collection?
It might
Because
not
I'll
even.
go
I don't.
grab it
It
real
might not.
quick.
No, because they have. I'm looking at the collection right now. So there's Witchfinder General, Theater of Blood, Madhouse, Doctor Fibes, Doctor Fibes Arrives again, Tales of Terror, and then Twice Told Tales. So it must be something else that I have of his that um, it was
Was it
on.
made around that same time?
It's like it's the 70s, right? So it's not like a period piece,
Hmm.
which is like how normally he does that, where it's like back in whatever colonial time or whatever. But it's sort of the same kind of movie. I'll have to figure out which one that is. But yeah, he made a whole bunch of movies like right around that time that were sort of like almost the same movie. So yeah, that's what I've been watching. I'm a huge Vincent Price fan. I think that he's one of my favorite actors. Junk from the Trunk says, "Did you know Vincent Price played a Shakespearean actor in Have Gun Will Travel? He
I
was
did
pretty
not.
pretty great in the movie with Clint Walker too. More dead than alive." So did not know that. Um, But yeah, so as we roll into Halloween, do you have any special things that you're gonna? I know we talked about the Christmas movies. I know you were talking about some of the Christmas movies you watch. Do you have any Halloween movies that you watch?
Oh yeah, I mean I'm a big horror fan in general, so that maybe not as much as it used to be, but that still is in somewhat regular rotation. But you know, the first four Halloween movies, you know, I tend to kind of watch those, especially the third one, which is one of my favorites. I know that one gets panned a lot, but I watch that pretty often around this time of year. Um, yeah, it kind of like the older black and white, like the Universal monster movies. You know, I'll watch those pretty regularly. Um, you know, around this time. So just kind of the old standards. I don't really have anything that outside of the first four Halloween movies that I have to watch kind of around this time of year. But you know, music, you know, it's usually like a lot of Misfits and things like that. That kind of, you know, that's kind of what I use to kind of, I guess, get me in the mood, get me in the spirit of things. So
Bobby Boris Pickett and the Crypt Kickers with the Monster Mash.
yeah,
Have you
yeah,
have you listened to that yet?
of course, several times.
Have you tried the Monster Mash cereal? Have you gone out to the grocery store to find it?
I have not, but blueberries have been a staple since early October in my house. So,
That's funny.
and they can keep the Frankenberry, man.
See, I mean, I used to like Frankenberry. I mean, it's one of those things I didn't realize that like Count Chocula was something where it wasn't. They didn't have it all the time. I always thought that they did, but then
No, no,
apparently they didn't. I didn't
they
realize
ought
that.
to, but they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. I'd eat that in June, man, but I can't.
Like it feels like it should be like, like Cocoa Krispies, Fruity Pebbles, well, Cocoa Pebbles, and like Count Chocula, right? Like if they
Right.
if like they can do Cookie Crisp year around, do Count Chocula. At least there's a little bit of redeeming value to Count Chocula instead of a bowl of glorified cookies for breakfast. So,
Preaching
uh,
to the choir, man. I've been jumping up and down on this hill since I was about 7. So
yeah, no, I enjoy the Frankenberry. I enjoy the Blueberry. Um, Yeah, Monster Mash is good because it's just a combination of them all together in one, which you'd think would be kind of weird, but it's kind of like one of those things like where you used to think that
if
tricks.
that's weird, I don't want to be
Yeah.
straight. So
Well, in like tricks. Remember how they said like trick
yeah,
cereal? How you thought like each one of
yeah,
the little tricks was a different flavor, but they're
yeah.
actually all the same. Like,
Really.
yeah, they're not like you can.
So I've been lied to.
Oh yeah, we've been lied to big time. I think Fruit Loops is the exact same way. I don't think that there's a difference between any of the.
Now the yellow ones are terrible. I'm not believing that,
Okay, all
man.
right.
I flicked it.
Well, I'll have to give that a try and see. Um, I got a little box right here actually.
What you got?
But bam,
Of
baby.
look at that. Look at you prepared. You eat
Yeah.
them just raw, no milk. Just
Well, no, they were for the little one. We
okay.
getting She was excited about cereal, so I said I will get you a little surprise from the grocery store.
Very
Um,
cool.
and if they're downstairs, then she'll find them. So it's kind of that's why they're here.
She does to avoid that from.
Right. So, all right. So why don't we'll kind of wind this up a little bit here. I'm just reading some of the comments that are coming through. Um, some of the stuff I'm looking forward to on Comet. Do you still get Comet? Are you
I do not.
you
They
know?
they
Okay.
they replaced it with something else,
Okay.
which really stinks because Comet was kind of one of the staples where it would just kind of stay there. So,
So,
but no, they've done away with Comet. But last year, like you're doing now, last year I reported a bunch of stuff that
well,
I still have.
it's
So,
funny because their last year was a little bit better. I just feel like in the selection of movies. Um, and again, it's free over the air TV, so you really shouldn't be complaining about it. Um, but they did like the House of Hammer Horror, which was like the television show that they did after the success of the movies.
oh wow,
So this year the only like the only special thing that they did this year was that they did Elvira's movie Macabre, which is on Fridays. They do one from 6 to 8 and then one from 8 to 10. So they've been showing. I think they may have showed maybe like 8 or 10 different ones total.
Oh wow.
There's been like the Gila monster. I think the Satanic Rites of Dracula was on there. The Terror with Jack Nicholson and Boris Karloff was one of the first ones they showed. Um, but on Halloween they're gonna do like a marathon. They're gonna have two tomorrow on Friday, and then they're gonna have a marathon on Sunday, um, along with a movie that Elvira did in 2002 or something like that. It's like Elvira's, I don't remember what it is, Haunted Hills or something. I'm not really too, I
Hmm.
was never a fan. I was never like a fan of Cassandra Peterson just in general, but
Oh my goodness.
like you know
I
what I
couldn't
mean.
disagree with you more.
Like it's just like I just was kind of like okay, whatever. Um, Dixieland Farm, hey Chris, says Mono's The Hands of Fate must do Halloween movie, which is a great one, which they've done sort of um, uh, the Mystery Science Theater, of course, did that, and then I think that's actually one of the ones that they're going to show with the Elvira thing coming up. I think either tomorrow or it's Sunday, or they might have already shown it. I'm not sure offhand, one or the other. Um, that's a great Halloween movie. Well, Halloween kind of themed movie, I guess. I think we got to talk about Ernest Scared Stupid as like one of the greatest Halloween movies of all time, right? I
Yeah,
think
how did we both skip over that?
no, I had that in the back of my mind. I didn't I didn't forget, but that will go down as like a Halloween must have. And I think we just celebrated the 30th anniversary. Isn't that what I said? It was like on the 11th.
Yeah,
I think October 11th was the 30th
something
anniversary of
like
that.
that.
So Sam and I are like making that a ritual that on the anniversary date of when it debuted in theaters, we're going to watch that, and that's going to kind of get us into the Halloween mood. But I definitely watch that every year. That's definitely one Halloween movie that I watch, and I think I might have told you this story, but years and years and years ago, I was probably like either in third or fourth grade, so I was like about 10 years old. Um, I had a sleepover with one of my friends. It was his birthday party, and we watched Ernest Scared Stupid. I think twice. We sort of like we all watched it, and then there was like the time when it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and like everybody's like, "Hey, let's watch it again." And then like you look around and you realize like you were the only one that was like still awake watching it. Um, and yeah, it was it's one of my favorite movies for sure. Um, so ever since then, I've watched it
You
nonstop.
think it's better than Ernest Goes to Jail?
Whew. I mean, the pen scene in Ernest Goes to Jail is
How about when he's got the floor buffer? Come on, man.
the floor buffer is also pretty good. What I was doing this time when I was watching Ernest Scared Stupid was I was writing down the times that there were like things that happened that it was like this would have definitely landed him in the hospital. So like if you think of like even like within like the first like
That's all you're going to be doing is writing, and you aren't
yeah,
even enjoy it.
but like you don't think about that until you like watch it. But like that first part, like even the first part where he's like he gets stuck in the garbage truck and like so he gets compacted,
Oh, that
right?
land him in the graveyard, not the. He'd be
And,
lucky to land in the
and
hospital.
then they like bail the garbage at the very end, and he sort of like falls like because it's like it's like his head sticking out, and then his like legs are like like kicking around, and then he falls and goes like face forward. There's a lot of moments in there that are like that. Fun fact about that movie, and my brother just he sent me something the other day, and I learned about this. Some of the trolls that they used in Ernest Scared Stupid were actually the same characters that they used in the Crazy Clowns from Outer Space, is that or Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
so they kind of repainted those, and
Huh.
so if you look at the very end, there's there's somebody that got like a credit for like the puppeteering or whatever. They had nothing to do in the movie other than just they were like here's some of the things that they repainted. So I'll send it to you, Steve. But if you if
Yeah,
you if
yeah,
you
for sure.
feel so inclined, go check that out.
Which
Baba,
Killer Clowns from Outer Space is another good one.
it is, but it's not. It's not necessarily a Halloween movie for me. I don't necessarily like say like I
No.
have to watch that one. So, but
Well,
that's
well, you do have to watch it at least once.
yeah,
You ought to.
that's another one that like Comet would play the crap out of, where they would play that like in
Really?
oh yeah, they used to play that one all the time. But that was even like last year where they had is it Mad Dog? Is that what it was? The one the Alice Cooper
Oh,
movie.
with Alice Cooper?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Woo.
That
That one. That one's
I don't think that's been back on since then, where he's the werewolf or whatever. Um,
not good.
the song is amazing though. This like what
Oh. Cause I got an identity that's
I'm
out of
James
control.
Bond. Yeah,
Well, that one's yeah. That's actually my favorite. Bar none. That's actually my favorite Alice Cooper song.
that's great.
Kid you not, man. I love it. I think it rocks. It's got like a garage feel to it. It's like got a question mark and the Mysterians kind of vibe to it a little bit. You know,
Yeah. Well,
maybe.
and
Am
it
I
kind of
reaching here?
no, and it kind of like and it sounds like the kind of has like the like an Iggy Pop song. It's like an Iggy Pop song.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's definitely pretty good. Um, Dr. Horton says Killer Clowns from Outer Space is technically the clowns were used as the trolls in Ernest Scared Stupid. Let me read that again. Is technically the clowns. Killer clowns were used as the trolls. Okay. I don't did I have it the other way around?
I'm not sure, but I know what y'all mean, both you guys.
Yeah. Um,
So
yeah, that was definitely, again, Ernest Scared Stupid
the
is.
other thing I want to touch on. Did you watch? You watched Troll 2 recently?
I did watch Troll 2 recently. Yeah.
Your thoughts, kind sir?
So should we set this up for the folks that have never seen Troll or
Yeah.
Troll 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So Troll 1, and I watched them back to back, so I apologize if I'm confusing them. Troll 1 is the one that's in the apartment, right? That's like it just takes place in the apartment, right? Yeah.
It's been so long since I've seen the
Yeah.
first one, but the second one's all you need to see.
So Troll 1 is a decent movie in the sense of that 80s. Hold on, hear me out. In that sense of sort of like cheesy, spooky movies that actually sort of made it to the theaters, right? They weren't direct to video, right? I don't think that it was direct to video. I might be totally wrong here, but um, it has Sonny Bono in it. First off, it
Oh
has
well,
what is I forget what the guy's name is. He was on Law and Order, like the original Law and Order back in 89, 90 when they first started doing. He was the DA, I think. Um, and there's a lot of psychedelic records. Remember I told you about that.
yeah.
He listens to Blue Cheer, Summertime Blues. But there's also I think there's a part where they show the Blues Magoo's electric comic book that
Okay.
there's a little scene where that is. So I'm not exactly sure what the premise of the movie is, other than that there's a troll that lives in an apartment, and Chris, if you're still watching, help me out. I know that he's probably seen that before. There's a troll that lives in the apartment, and he's trying to like eat souls, and there's sort of like this nightmare world kind of thing, whatever. The mother from Lost in Space is on it too, so I forget her name is offhand. She's in it. It actually did well in the theaters. It made money, so they were going to release Troll 2. So this is where Troll 2 comes into play. Troll 2 was not about trolls whatsoever. The movie was supposed to be wasn't supposed to be called Goblins. Wasn't that supposed to be what the movie was?
It's something like that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
supposed to be
with
called.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, well, Harry Potter's in the first movie. He's not in the second
Oh,
movie.
okay. There you go.
So Troll 2 is about these families who kind of do this. They trade. They sort of say, "You come and live at my house for a month or whatever, and then I'm going to go live at your house." So this normal '80s family goes to trade with these people who live in Nilbog, which backwards spells goblin, if you haven't thought about that. So they go there, and then it ends up that if you eat the food that they have, that you become a goblin, or you basically you turn into a weird kind of plant. The goblins, by the way, they're vegetarians. I forgot to mention that. Um,
Well, they're conscientious, you know. So let they're not all bad, okay?
right, right. So they're vegetarians. But they're very concerned about what you sort of eat beforehand. So they don't want you eating, meat, bacon, and then you become tainted. And then when they try to eat you, it's this is the plot of the movie. um,
We're not making this
we're
up.
not
We're
making this
not,
up.
you know, we're
I've spoken the truth. So so
this
they,
was greenlit and given money.
that's right. So the movie happens, and then it just sort of takes off and becomes a cult favorite. So the guy that did the young kid who's like the child actor in the movie, he did a documentary recently, which I guess some of the guys from the Upright Citizens Brigade sort of like were saying like this is such a terrible movie, but like people were like, yeah, when I was a kid, like I watched this movie, and then it sort of became bigger than it actually is, almost like in this like Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of thing. But it's a terrible
It's the
movie.
definition of a of a cult movie. You
Exactly.
know,
Where it's almost to the point where some of the people that are in the movie like didn't realize. I think in the documentary it's really interesting because they the main character George, I forget what his name is, he's a dentist and he sort of like took the gig as the father, just sort of as like, hey, I'm an actor, I'm just going to try to do this thing, and then he completely abandoned it after the movie tanked. Um, so he's still practicing dentistry. Um, and then so like the people in his town, he's like, hey, like when he goes to New York or LA, like it's like people are like, ah, Troll 2, it's the greatest movie of all time. And then like the people in his town, like they don't give a crap about him because like they're like, what? So he was saying like when he watches the movie and it's like they did a screening in his hometown, and it was like people just didn't get it. Like they were just like just being cordial, like, yeah, great movie, yeah, but they don't get it. Like you're not supposed to look at the movie that way. Like the more cheese, the better the movie is. It's not.
right, right.
That's not how it is. But I believe yes, on Halloween, if you get Comet TV, you can watch Troll 2. Um, they're going to show it. They actually show Troll 1 and Troll 2 back to back. So if you feel so inclined to waste 4 hours of your life watching Troll 1 and Troll 2, which aren't connected in any way to each other, only in name, um, feel free to do that. So, but yeah, I feel like you should at least watch them once, just because you can kind of laugh about how terrible they are. So, um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, that's another movie to add to the list. Let's see if we got some more comments here. Um, John from the Trunk says, "The more cheese, the better the nachos." I
Absolutely.
would have to agree with that. So,
Absolutely.
um,
If you want to know another cheesy, ultra cheesy movie, Invasion of the Blood Farmers.
okay,
It was filmed in like New York State in the early 70s. Nobody got paid. They were just paid in beer. It's really great. It's kind of obscure. I think it may be on YouTube, fully uncut, but if nothing else, just the trailer is. It's an early 70s grindhouse movie, and it's a whole lot of fun. It's about these farmers who you find out later are druids, and they have to harvest blood for their sacrifice. So it's great. It's great. It's cheesy. The acting is horrendous, but it's just about perfect.
I think it's interesting how like during the 70s and the 80s, how there was definitely like there was sort of like a turn in like what was sort of like this is the thing that this is like how horror movies are going to be. And like you really have to think about that. Like when I watch like the very first Halloween, like I look at that and I say like, okay, this movie could have been one of those movies. Like there are some parts in there that could have said like, okay, this is just like not a good horror movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I think that the name alone, I think, is striking. That originally was the Halloween was originally going to be called the Babysitter Murders.
okay, so
And
again,
I
yeah,
think had they gone with that,
hmm
then it wouldn't have. Who knows for sure? But I definitely think it would have been in with kind of like those other grindhouse movies, and maybe forgotten or maybe just kind of overshadowed by something else.
yeah. I think that title alone would have been. I don't think it would have been able to get you know what it
A
was.
major release, and
Yeah,
I think that's kind of I think that's what kind of the investors and everything thought too. It's like you gotta fix this name.
but Halloween, of course, I think is it's become bigger than itself, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if you're not too fond, like, so did you feel that the most recent one was that sort of like a cash in, or was that just like, what do you feel?
So it's I thought the acting, which I know is going to sound silly, but I thought the acting was just extra horrendous. Anthony Michael Hall actually plays the lead in it and does a terrible job. Uh, just I didn't like the one they released a couple of years ago, and this was just kind of more of that.
Was that Halloween
So that was just called
H2O?
Halloween.
Okay.
No, H2O was released in like the timeline is so strange. So
Okay.
you've got Halloween 1 and 2, and then 3 has nothing to do with them, and then it picks back up with 4 and 5, and so on and so forth. But the one that came out a couple of years ago, like ignoring Ron Zombie's Halloweens, because those are just off to the side by themselves. So the Halloween that came out prior to the most recent one, you've got the first Halloween movie, and then that one. You forget everything else after part one. So that kind of connects, and then this one, Halloween Kills, kind of connects to that. So that's like the trilogy of those movies, so to speak. And they've got it. They're working off of 2 different timelines essentially.
Okay.
But no, I thought, for a movie only to be an hour and a half, if I'm checking my phone and goofing off and, looking up baseball cards on eBay and things like that, for me to be doing that, in an hour and a half where I'm usually able to sit still and kind of just
Yep.
hang, says a lot.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half, but it felt like 2.5 hours.
Mm.
So just kind of dragged on a little bit and got kind of convoluted and just I didn't find it very entertaining. So
I think also too that that's the beauty of horror movies is, especially when you get those ones that are like 86 minutes or like 93 minutes is like,
there's a sweet spot,
yeah, like there's just like it's just like perfect where it's like, okay, that's exactly what I needed to do for the last hour and a half. Evil Dead, I know we didn't talk about Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2. I don't, you're not an Army of Darkness fan, correct? You don't like
Not
that one?
not at all,
Do you
not
like
even a
Evil
little
Dead
bit.
though? Do you like Evil Dead or no?
I
Okay.
love the original Evil Dead. Part 2 is great. I really love part 1 though.
Okay.
So
Like the
that's
original,
yeah.
right? The
Oh
original.
yeah, yeah, from 81. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That movie's great. That movie's what more do you want in the movie?
Yeah. And I think it's just, it has those comedic, and it's weird because like I think about sort of even my, um, as a kid, I never really like horror movies scared the crap out of me as a kid, right? So
Really?
like, yeah, like it's just I don't know what it was. It was just like maybe it was like the surreal sort of horror to it. Um, Chucky, like, yeah, let's not even talk about that. Like, I mean, I'm sure I could watch it now and just be like, okay, that was like the stupidest movie ever. But there was definitely a time when it was just like, I just don't want to watch any horror movies. Like, it's just not a genre that I'm interested in. Um, and then like sort of towards the late 90s, I had a friend that was like really into Evil Dead, and he was just
Yeah.
like, he's like, it's so like he was like, we're gonna watch some horror movies that are just like they're so silly, it's funny, right? And then then you realize like it's like, okay, like I'm not scared of seeing somebody getting their head chopped off anymore. The more surreal stuff is like like documentaries or like like the stuff that's like the real, like this is real stuff, right? Not like
Right.
not watching some guy like where the blood's shooting out of the wall and
Sure.
stuff like that. So horror movies was definitely not a thing that I watched from early on. Did I lose you, Steve? There you are.
I'm here.
You're good.
So see, I was the exact opposite. When I was a kid, that's all I wanted to see was horror. My parents were like, no, 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 we're not going to do that. But I remember I stayed home sick one day from school, and I don't even remember how old I was, but it must have been around Halloween because Halloween 2 and Friday or Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, like the sixth Nightmare on Elm Street, were on TV. And my mom was like, "All right, I'm gonna let you watch these, but I'm gonna watch with." And I just remember like watching them and just thinking they were so cool and so much fun. And I remember and another thing that kids won't get nowadays, going to the video store and looking at all the box art for
Right.
all these movies, and the 70s and 80s, or at least when VHS came around, some of the box art is infinitely better than the movie itself.
Yeah.
And I think you'd get lost like looking at all those movies and the box art and everything else, and just really being like, oh man, this is so cool looking.
when I was a kid, my dad, there was really in my town, there was like really two video stores that were like independent video stores. And
Hmm.
then, of course, we had a Blockbuster. But there was this one that was like, the way that the plaza was, there was like, uh, there was, I think at the time, like a Rite Aid or like, there's a drugstore on a corner. There was like there was like your normal uh, grocery store. There was a McDonald's. There was like a laundromat, and then there was like this little hole in the wall movie store, and it was like your typical like. I would say if I had to guess, there was probably like two 8 foot, like 8 foot on one, and then there was sort of like a middle part, and then like an end cap, and then like another. It was very very small, and it was all
Okay.
VHS tapes, and we would go there and we would get movies. I think they were, just like a couple of bucks. They used to have Nintendo games that we would rent there too, and they had this thing where there was like a drawing where you just put your name in, and then they, pulled a name, where you would get. I'll have to ask him, but it was like maybe like 50 rentals for free.
Oh
And
wow.
but I remember they had a little horror section, or like a little, just like kind of like a weird section. And the one movie that I always remember seeing there was Crawl. Like, like you've seen
Kroll, like the sci-fi movie.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that was always one that I was like sort of like, ugh, like that
With the
was like
face on the front of
that
it and
was a
all
weird
that.
one. Yeah. But and again, we used to have one of the grocery store chains that we have in Western Pennsylvania. So the Giant Eagle, they would have their own movie section. I don't remember, like, I remember Giant Eagle having it. I don't remember like any other. Um, do you remember Farmore? Were you around for Farmore, or that might have been a Western Pennsylvania thing? Okay.
Mm-mm. No, no, I've only went into Blockbuster like when I visited my grandparents. They both retired to San Diego, and that's the only time I remember going into Blockbuster. But when we were in Maryland, they had a place called Shipley's Video Shack, and I remember like as a kid, I just thought this place was huge, but it probably wasn't. But you'd go in and they'd have new releases, and I remember towards the back of the store they'd have their horror, and then around the corner they had you know
The
the
bead curtain.
the bead curtain, and we know what was in there. So, those are right there next to the horror movies, and like I don't know which one I'd get more in trouble for looking at through there or through like the horror movies. I'm like, no, I was looking for Meryl Streep section. Is that this way or is that back up? So but yeah, dude, that's again something that's like, man, kids are never going to know about, going in there and like looking at all these VHS box art, of these horror movies, like, oh man, this looks so creepy and scary. What's gonna happen? And
Hmm.
then you're like, oh, I guess I'll get Pee Wee's Big Adventure and call it a day.
Pee Wee Herman Munster.
Yeah,
That, it's a good Halloween costume to do.
I like it. There you go.
Uh, that would be on Wheel of Fortune. Um, but no, yeah, that's going to be a lost, like, that's a lost thing of our childhood that people won't be able to do. And I
Yeah.
mean, I remember, the one movie place um, that I went to quite a bit, that was, was an indie place. I had friends that worked at Blockbuster, and they were always, always the newest movies, where, whatever. I had a friend that worked there, and he just, they had their own, like, hey, these are, so and so's picks, and it was always like Mallrats and Boondock Saints were like the only two movies that he ever like had, and I was like, oh, somebody has Boondock Saints, I can't watch that. Um, but this
I
place
feel
that
like you're sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I feel like your blockbusters are like your big chain stores, and then your independent record stores are like your mom and pop video stores. So they're gonna have back catalog and all that.
Yeah, but that's like, like I said, I think about this one that was, and again, it was like one of those, like, kind of like off to the side, kind of in its own little, plaza. It was like, two doctors' offices, and then the video store that was in there, and maybe a dentist's office, something like that. And they had a great selection, and just even like they did do a lot of new movies. Like, the people that own that, I know that they probably paid a ton of money to keep that up to date because they were pretty competitive too. Like it was definitely cheaper than Blockbuster, but like it was one of those situations like a lot of times if you wanted to see like the newest movie, like they wouldn't necessarily have it.
Hmm.
Like they'd have a copy, but somebody had it, right? But they had an incredible, and we'll save this conversation for another time, but they had an incredible wrestling selection, and
Ooh,
definitely I rented WrestleMania 3 quite a few times
on Coliseum Video.
from, and they'd give it to you in like that plastic brick that was like, you know what I mean? Like you could basically,
You could back a truck over it and be like, it's
right?
fine.
You could like transport like, I don't know, uranium in it or something like that, and it would be, you know what I mean, like some sort of
Yeah,
radioactive materials, and it would be fine because it was like
that's
so
great.
the hardest plastic ever. But that place was pretty great. They definitely had a pretty big section with the bead curtain, but that was actually right up by the front. So it was like you were like right up by the, because they did the thing where it was like their movies were like they just had the box and then right behind it was like the other movie. So like if you
Yeah,
wanted that, you just had to take that and then give it to them. Which I guess is how Blockbuster did it. But um, that other movie store was more like they had to go back to the wall and then pull the movie and do that. But yeah,
that's
man,
cool.
that's a lost art form. So um,
And dudes are recreating that. Have you seen that? Like these people on Instagram and whatnot that are like buying like the racks and things like that of stores that are going out of business. And I mean VHS, just like records, are just going up in price and value and all
yeah.
that. And guys are kind of like recreating that.
Well, I
So
think like you said, we sort of missed the boat on, um, where a lot of that, yeah, like when people were fire sailing that, like in 2003, 2004, and
oh well,
you know,
VHS tapes and
yeah,
oh yeah, I got rid of mine. I think I got rid of all my VHS tapes. Yeah, I was in high school, so this was like 03, 04. I was like a junior senior when I would just like I just dumped them. I donate. I know I donated them. So yeah, I think we're about 15 years too late on getting on that craze because people now, especially hard in VHS, hard VHSs. I mean, you go on eBay and look at it, and so, some of the more obscure ones. I mean, you're talking easily five all the way up to $1,000 plus for some of these movies. So
yeah.
people definitely got rich for cheap.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think there might be sort of a parallel between that and just even record collecting, right? So we think about, maybe those folks that got into, hey, I'm a horror collector or whatever, and they sort of just kind of hit that gold mine at the right time. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
records were like maybe like 5 to 10 years even before that. You know what I mean? Like I don't remember. Like I really wasn't collecting in like the mid '90s, but like
No, no.
I could only imagine what records were like at that point. You know what I mean? Like what you could buy and things like that. But you think once people were really dumping off those VHS tapes, and I think that in a few years we'll hit that. I think that we might even be at that point with some of those DVDs where you can just get DVDs super cheap.
Oh, I think we're there.
Okay.
I think physical media outside of vinyl, I can't imagine them producing physical copies of things very much longer. I really can't.
Yeah.
Just because the demand is so low and it's so cost effective just to upload it to a streaming service or upload it to whatever, and just have it that way. There's really, unless you're a collector, there's really no need, and it's certainly more cost effective on there and just to have it uploaded
Yeah.
someplace and not to
Well,
have a physical
you put it on the
format of it.
cloud, and then really, you think about the really it's on the consumer, on the customer, right? So
Sure.
you have to say, hey, how much data do you have to actually download this or whatever? Like once they upload it, it doesn't really cost them anything really to. Sure, there's they maintain the servers and things like that, but once it's there,
Now that
that's there's not that
now I do think again, just not to turn this into a hard discussion, but I do think that places like Vinegar Syndrome and Scream Factory, Shout Factory,
Hmm.
Arrowhead Video. I think all that stuff I think is still because that stuff is kind of in demand, and those collectors want the physical copies and things
Hmm.
like that, especially the Vinegar Syndrome stuff, which it
Yeah,
goes out of print just like that real quick. Um, I think there's always going to be a want for those, and I think they're going to be made. But as far as like, I don't know, the new Fast and Furious movie, I don't see like that coming to a physical format, like a Blu-ray or DVD, or I don't even think they make DVDs anymore of new movies, do they? I think it's either
they do. Well,
4K Ultra
think
or
about this, right? So I predict that when we see Redbox like not really being a thing anymore, like
who goes to Redbox? I passed one the other day going to the drugstore.
yeah,
There was one right out there, and I was like, "What in the world is this? Like, who still does that?"
yeah. Well,
But
and
somebody does. Evidently, somebody does.
yeah, I mean, I have one. I mean, there's one at the one of the main grocery stores that I go to, and I even bought a box of popcorn the other day, and there was like a code in the box that was you could use it at a Redbox to get a free
Oh wow.
rental for a Redbox. But I'm sure there's again, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So it's probably you got to put your credit card in. I mean, I've never done Redbox. I don't know how it works, but I'm sure you
You
got to
put your credit card in, and you got to return the movie in order to get the,
you, you get a credit, you know what I mean, or you create an
right.
account and then you get a credit on it and they get your name and things like that.
Exactly.
But I would predict once we no longer see that because I think at the the one thing that you and I have to be conscious of is that um, not everywhere has high speed internet, right? So that's still
Oh,
there's
that's true.
still going to be those people that that are out in the middle of wherever in Idaho. No offense to our Idaho viewers, but you can't download anything or there's no signal, and for them, then there's a market that okay, that physical media is there and that's still a thing. I think that um, again, I think that's one of the, once we see that go away, then I think we'll definitely see those things going away. But again, like you said, Vinegar Syndrome, there's definitely one. I've definitely been like, hey, maybe I should just get like a mystery box from them. But the last thing I need to be doing is bringing home, girly movies that I got by accident because it's
Well,
like,
that's the thing. And for people who don't know, Vinegar Syndrome, what they do is they actually take film and it's actually they actually go through like scene by scene, reel by reel, and they remaster it and clean it up. And a lot of this stuff is more obscure horror movies, and a lot of it is stuff intended for mature audiences. So kind of classic
rated
movies
X,
of that. Yeah, exactly.
double X,
So
triple
yeah,
X,
yeah.
NC
So
seventeen.
yeah. So if you were to get a mystery box, a five, I can probably not guarantee, but say there's probably one or two films like that in that box. So
Yeah.
maybe not.
Well, they used to, they would run the sales, and they always have that, their Black Friday big, huge sale they
Oh
always
yeah,
do.
yeah, it's good. They've got when they have a fire sale, it's a great sale.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's, again, there's those niche, Arrow, like you said, is another one where, when you see, I mean, I got an Arrow copy of the Andromeda Strain, and it was like
Okay.
the only. I don't think it was out any other way, but the one that was like the Arrow video. And I mean,
Yeah.
it was expensive. Again, for I think it was Blu-ray, and I paid like maybe $25 for it or something like that.
Mhm.
But it looked amazing. Like it
Well,
looked
see,
like
I
you're watching film.
like about 4 or 5 years ago, Leslie got me the Mutilator, and it was on Arrow Video.
Okay.
And it's a low budget '80s slasher, but I mean, it looks like something that came out, which as far as the film restoration, I mean, it looks like something that came out 2 years ago versus 36, 37 years ago, whatever. So yeah, they really take their time, and if you're into that kind of stuff, I mean, it's going to cost you a little bit. It's certainly not cheap, but you can tell immediately when you're watching it where the quality and what you're paying for comes in.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a
So
good. I know we're getting close to. Well, we're at 10 o'clock here, so I thank everybody that has made it this long, and all of our people that are viewers that have watched. Thank you for your comments, and we'll see you sometime next week. Probably
yeah,
Wednesday, maybe Thursday. We'll see.
we'll,
Um,
we'll we'll announce it. I'm sure
so
one
everybody,
of the
take
two.
care. Have a great day. We'll see you.